Good day, all. Welcome to another Raw Elected Official interview with locallegislator.net, where our mission is to be the premier source of local election information in the United States and an advocate for the sustainability of local businesses nationwide. I am your host, Charles Gates. Today we are in Chesapeake, Virginia. It is our pleasure to be joined by City Councilman Matt Hamel. Welcome, Councilman. Let's jump right into it. Tell us something about you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I guess I should start off by saying I'm a husband of almost 20 years with my wife Karen. We've got 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys, and so I guess that's a little something about me. I'm also a lawyer and a Navy JAG reservist.
All right. And do you have any party affiliations with this particular position?
Well, technically, the City Council is a nonpartisan position, but in full transparency, I was endorsed by the Republican Party. I am a member of the Republican Party, so I would say, yes, I affiliate with the Republican Party, but I would also caveat that by saying that probably 99% of the issues that we deal with as a City Council are nonpartisan and local issues.
Great. And what is your educational background?
So I went to law school at night at Rutgers University. That was prior to joining the Navy. And of course, obviously preceding that, I went to undergrad. So I'm a lawyer by trade, and my educational background is I've got a Juris Doctor degree.
Wow, impressive. Now, do you live in Chesapeake, and if so, for how long?
Yes, so I was initially stationed here, stationed in Norfolk in 2005, at the tail end of 2005. So my family and I moved here then, and we pretty much have stayed here since then, although I was gone quite a bit on active duty orders. I deployed to Iraq during the surge from 2007 to 2008, so I was gone for a period of time, and my wife and my kids developed a lot of roots here. And at some point in 2011, as I was about to negotiate more orders, my wife said, well, the kids and I are staying here in Chesapeake, so if you want to take orders somewhere else, you'll be going by yourself. And that was when I knew it was time to transition to the reserves. But we as a family have lived in Chesapeake for the better part of the last almost 15 years.
15 years, wow. And what has been the extent of your community's involvement?
So upon my return from Iraq, I volunteered to serve on, and I was asked by the mayor, then Mayor Krasnoff, to serve on the Mayor's Commission on Veterans Affairs. So I did that for about 10 years, and we were responsible for putting on all of the Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies outside of City Hall. We also managed the Veterans Memorial outside of City Hall, and did that for a period of time. I'm also a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post here in Chesapeake. I'm also a member of the South Norfolk Ruritan Club. I serve on the board of directors for the YMCA of Southampton Roads, and have done that for a number of years. So I've been involved in a lot of those different civic organizations or nonprofits for the better part of the last 10 or 11 years.
Wow, and when do you get time to sleep? Oh, wow. Is this your first publicly elected office?
Yes, it is.
And why did you decide to serve on the city council?
Well, the City Council, and I applaud you and your organization for going out there and trying to gather information. And I know you're called local legislature, and really, I think what intrigued me about the City Council is how many issues really affect people on a very personal and local level. And this extension of service for me, coming out of the military, wanting to keep and plant roots here in Chesapeake, it evolved, and I was encouraged by several people to run, and I don't regret it at all.
Oh, great. And what are the real responsibilities of the city council and its members?
Well, I would say that one of our most important responsibilities is passing a budget every year. Our city is a city of 245,000 people. Our budget is about $1.2 billion. We have a city staff of probably 3,500 city employees. We have many, I think we have in the school system more than 5,000 teachers and employees. So I think one of the functions of the city council is to serve in an advisory capacity and develop policy positions for the city. Our specific role as city council members is to essentially hire folks like the city manager, the city attorney, the real estate assessor, the city auditor, and I'm missing one off the top of my head, and it'll probably come to me, but one of our most important roles are to make sure that those folks are put in place and that they can then direct and manage a staff of people to essentially carry out the city's business. But I think that what you've asked as far as a question of what the role is of the city council in that is subject to some debate by different folks. And my personal position on that is that the city council is more like a board of directors for the city. I don't think that it's our job to micromanage the city staff and to get involved in how they perform their jobs. I think we need to make sure we, as a city council, hire those people that are put into very important positions and then let them hire a staff and make sure that the business of the city is carried out. And that's my position on that. But I'm one of 9 on our council and one of 9 votes.
Okay, that was my next question. Now, 9 people on the council, is that a typical number for a city of this size?
That's a good question. I don't really know if you could say it's typical. I think Virginia Beach has a few more. I think they have 11 members. Their structure is a little bit different than ours in Chesapeake. In Virginia Beach, for example, they've got some folks that are elected to represent a particular district. Some folks are at large. If you look at Norfolk, they have more of a ward system where folks are only elected by the people in that ward. Whereas Virginia Beach, even if you're representing a particular district, you could be voted in by everybody from the whole city. Well, here in Chesapeake, all 9 of us, it's really 8 city council members plus the mayor, but all 9 of us are essentially, we are elected at large, meaning we have to represent and seek votes from all of the different parts of Chesapeake, whether it's Western Branch, Indian River, South Norfolk, Deep Creek, Greenbrier, Great Bridge. It's just a huge city, and we need to be mindful of that. But to answer your question directly, I'm not entirely sure. If I would say yes. I don't think it's an atypical number for a city of this size. But I also don't know that the number of the city council is really determinative. I mean, I think you would need a majority vote regardless of the size of a council to get things passed and to advance a particular policy or initiative.
Interesting. Now, is serving as a councilman like having another full-time job from a time commitment standpoint?
It can be. I would say that it is technically a part-time position. I mean, we are paid a part-time salary, and that's the way that the charter's set up, the city charter. And I think that was kind of done on purpose to draw in folks with many different backgrounds to form a council of people that are themselves constituents and representatives of that city. So it is a part-time position. We have city council meetings on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Tuesday of every single month. However, there are events that we are invited to go to and that we can go to almost every single day. I think that some of us are able to go to a few more things than others. And I also sometimes think it's a challenge to balance a family, a full-time job, my Navy Reserve job, and the city council job. But I think if you focus on the right things at the right times, you can get to the right place. But it is a part-time job.
Okay, great. Now, what are your 4 top goals while in office?
You know, I've been asked that question quite a bit. I was elected back in May of 2018 was when my election occurred, and I was sworn in on July 1st. And you know, for the longest time in the very beginning, I would oftentimes say I think the single biggest challenge that we as a council face is how our city is going to grow and evolve and develop. And I think that we as a city council need to be very good stewards of the taxpayers' money and how the budget is passed and what we spend our money on, and whether we, you know, what the mixture is of funding things with taxes versus taking out you know, bonds or issuing debt obligations and things like that. As far as my personal initiatives, and I resisted, or I sort of resist answering the question as if there are things that I feel like I need to get done to say that I was successful on the city council. I think we need to be good we need to exhibit good governance for the city. Last year, I had a couple of initiatives that were very important to me. One of my initiatives was to work with the Chesapeake Career Center, which is kind of like the modern day VOTEC students as part of the high school. And I had heard our superintendent speak about his own family, and he was talking about his daughter and his son, and he was saying, you know, my daughter, she's a master's prepared, she's getting a degree at University of Virginia, I think, in English literature, but I have a son who college wasn't for him, and he went directly into the trades, and he now is living in Florida, and he's got a HVAC business, and he's doing remarkably well. And he said, but for me as the superintendent, I need to be thinking about all of our students, not just the ones that we want to push to college. And so I was inspired by our superintendent's words last year, and I approached him. I said, you know, we should really set up an award or a scholarship program for one special student from each of the 7 high schools who's in this career track. And not just the kid who has the best grades or anything like that, but the kid who also helps out the other students, takes care of the other students, has some good community involvement, has a plan, wants to go, has a job prospect for when they graduate. And the schools, nothing to do with my initiative, we're going to be doing a signing night. Sort of like an NCAA sports signing night, but for folks that were going directly working for a business. And so we went out and raised some money, and we were able to give a $1,000 grant, essentially, or an award, to one student from each of the 7 high schools. And it was just a really remarkable thing, and I was very proud to be a part of that initiative. So that was just something, and it really wasn't something that affected the city as a whole necessarily, but it was an initiative that was very important to me. So I could go through and give you little things like that and say, hey, these are my top 4 priorities to answer your question directly. But I think we as a city council need to be looking at what things advance our city in the direction that we want to go. I do believe we also need to preserve some of the historical sites that we have in the city. I'm a big proponent of maintaining the Great Bridge School here in the center of Great Bridge, and trying to encourage, as we evolve and develop, a way to maintain a lot of the history that we have in this city. So I don't know if that's answering your questions directly, but there's a couple of small initiatives. I also serve, I was elected by my fellow council mates to serve on the HRT board. And so I'm one of the elected representatives from the city of Chesapeake that serves on that board, and transportation initiatives are a very big concern of mine. How we travel around the city, how folks are able to get from one place to another, and I think that traffic is one of the significant concerns for quality of life in our city. And I think that if our traffic concerns were alleviated, people wouldn't be as nervous about growth. And I think that things that we're doing as a council to encourage things such as the redoing of the AIW Deep Creek Bridge, the Centerville Turnpike Bridge repair, the widening of 64. I mean, none of these things are just Chesapeake local issues, and they involve coordination with the Army Corps of Engineers, with VDOT, with multiple state and even federal agencies. But how we play a role in that as a city council, I think, is very important. And And so I would say any initiative or any thought or vote that I'm going to do is going to be with the backdrop of balancing those things for our citizens.
Great. Now, you mentioned the superintendent earlier. What is your relationship with the school board?
I think that our city council has an excellent relationship with the school board. The way that our system is set up, we pass our budget, as I referenced before. It's almost a $1.2 billion budget. I believe last year's budget, about almost half of that, or maybe even a little more than half of that, goes to the schools. So we essentially fund the schools as a council, but we don't micromanage how the schools or the school board allocate the money. I think that right now our city is also undergoing a facility study, and we just had a work session with our school board and the city and school administrations to look at things like rezonings and how the city is growing and how what facilities need to be renovated or demolished and rebuilt. And I would say overall our working relationship with the school board is excellent. They're an elected body, as are we. They have a different role to play, but the interplay with the finances and then the governance is distinct.
All right. Fantastic. What advice would you give to someone toying with the idea of running for a locally elected office?
I would say the best thing to do first is to find a passion for something and then get involved. For me, back in 2008, 11 years ago, it was being a part of the Mayor's Commission on Veterans Affairs. To me, honoring veterans, in particular those that came before me, those that served in Vietnam and came back and were treated so horribly and spit upon or even violently treated, to me is a tragedy in our history. So for me, the idea of serving veterans was a passion. And I think that my own election, I didn't do that in the very beginning to get elected. I did that because I was passionate about something and I wanted to be involved in the community. And I would say to people that want to ultimately serve, find something that you are passionate about doing, because even if you don't have aspirations beyond that, I think there'll be a certain amount of satisfaction and it'll enrich your own life to be doing things that serve the community, and only good things can come out of that. And so I guess the best advice, I would say, find something that you are very interested in doing, get involved, meet people, be positive, and there's opportunities that can come out of just about any interaction and any civic service. And so I think it just is as simple as that. Find something and get involved.
Okay, good advice. And last question for you. Is there anything else you would like to share with your constituents or the people of Virginia or Chesapeake?
Wow, that's a pretty broad question. I guess as it relates to me and the City Council of Chesapeake is that I would ask people to remember that your local government affects more of your day-to-day life than just about anything else. And, this isn't my line, but I love it. There's no such thing as a Republican or a Democrat pothole. And 99% of the issues that come before the council are not partisan issues. They are about quality of life concerns. And I believe that the overwhelming majority of our citizens want to live in a safe place with excellent schools, and they want to get along. They want to get along with each other, and they want what's best for their kids. And I would say that if we remember that as the backdrop for anything that we're doing, the hyper partisan stuff that's going on really should take a back seat to trying to do the right thing for the city in every vote. And so what I would like to share with people is the fact that, yes, while I'm endorsed by a political party, and yes, I've got my own personal opinions on things, not every single position that I have as a human being fit within just what one party says or the other. And the votes that I take on a day-to-day basis are guided by general principles. And while my principles are generally, I would say, right of center, that doesn't mean that a vote coming down on how we're going to approve or disapprove a rezoning, or how much money we're going to put towards, one initiative versus another, these are quality of life concerns that have nothing to do with my own beliefs as far as what's going on at the national or even the state level. And I would ask folks to kind of remember that. And I would say this, that since my year and a half on city council, I have met hundreds and hundreds of folks from our city, and by and large, almost uniformly, people understand that. They're extremely respectful, and I think that we as electeds ought to extend that same courtesy regardless of what political affiliation anybody has.
Okay, well, thank you, Councilman Matt Hamel from Chesapeake. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. Again, I am Charles Gates from LocalLegislator.net, where our mission is to be the premier source of local election information in the United States and an advocate for the sustainability of local businesses nationwide. If you are a locally elected official or a small business owner in the Hampton Roads or Richmond, Virginia areas and would like a raw interview, go to our Contact Us page at LocalLegislator.net to let us know. We will come to you. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Local Legislator. Again, I am Charles Gates, where we want you to remember, we're not global, we're local. LocalLegislator.net. Thank you.